Hello and welcome back to Housewives with Heather Season 1, Real Housewives of Orange County. This is actually the final installment of Season 1. I am so excited to get to Season 2 and beyond. You have actually no idea, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So before we get into any of that, if you haven't watched any of the previous installments, they are linked in a playlist in the bio. Please watch those before you watch this one, or watch this one. I can't make you do anything. I just want to take a second to give a massive thank you to every single person who has taken time to watch my videos or subscribe to the channel or leave a comment. It honestly makes me so happy and I feel so grateful because at the end of the day, I will talk about Real Housewives whether there's a camera on me or not. So I'm having the time of my life making these videos, so I hope that you guys are enjoying watching them. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider changing that and subscribing and leaving a comment down below. Who's your favorite housewife? Whether it's on this show or on any of them, please let me know. And again, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and let's dive in. Episode 6 kicks off with Lauri and her friend Lorelai taking pictures on the beach to submit to get invited to the pajama party at the Playboy Mansion. She says she's been to a couple parties at the mansion, and this, in addition to being the Bush era America with the obsession with MILFs, is also the golden age of Playboy, blonde hair, fake boobs, all that kind of stuff. The cultural artifacts of the time, if you will. And Lauri, to quote one of my all-time favorite Housewives legends, Sheree Whitfield, she looks fucking phenomenal. She looks amazing. She says she's Hef likes blonde, so we gotta kind of make Lorelai look extra sexy because she's a brunette. And it is funny, Caucasian cultural wars of blondes versus brunettes, because as somebody who is a brunette, I definitely felt that at this time period. Definitely the urge to be blonde.
It's a little intimidating to be submitting bikini photos. Hef always looks for blondes, big boobs, and a flat stomach. It doesn't matter that I've had 3 kids. I'm still competing with girls younger than my daughter.
Okay. Ooh, that's it. That was good.
At least I'm blonde, and Playboy loves blondes. Lorelai's brunette, so you've got to make her look extra sexy.
And speaking of people who have something to celebrate and be happy about, Vicki and Dawn are out celebrating because Dawn got a job, thank God, after being out of work for 5 months, which obviously was driving Vicki insane. Vicki's mentioned before too that she's freaking out about being an empty nester. She's mentioned that a few times, and even if she didn't mention it, we could tell. We could definitely tell. Hi, princess.
I'm having separation anxiety.
Brandon's gonna be gone. You gotta make your peace with that. She's moving on in her life, and she should. Just you can't call Michael when he has a test at 20 years old, Vicki, and say you gotta get up. No, that's not healthy, Vicki.
I think I have a great relationship with the kids.
And she mentions that she's going to her 25th high school reunion. So she's going up to Chicago, Illinois. And there is towards the end of the meal, there is kind of a bit of tension between Vicki and Dawn because Dawn is worried about Vicki gathering ex-boyfriends. And she's saying, no, never, we're done. And he's saying oh, this guy's a dork and a loser. And she's kind of well, you don't have to say all that. Not too much. So I'm excited to see Vicki at her high school reunion because I'm sure she's always been the same Vicki, the Vicki we know and love.
Reunion Friday night, it's all about me.
We get this invitation in the mail and it says spouses not welcome, clothing optional. Oh, I've been to her reunions in the past. They're all a bunch of geeks.
Bob sent me an email. The email
Your
said...
boyfriend, Bob?
Mm-hmm.
He's
Great
a nice guy, but he is a
Absolutely.
dork.
He's not a dork.
So while Vicki freaks out about being an empty nester, Jeana is helping Shane fill out his kind of entry paperwork to college. He's accepted a scholarship, so he's going away to Arizona. And we just see the dynamic at Gina's house and her badass kids. I know I've said it 4 times that her kids are bad as fuck, but her kids are bad as fuck. They're throwing shit at each other. She says that Shane and Cara are constantly fighting. We see a montage of him throwing water at her. And Gina's I know my kids are spoiled. It is what it is.
I think the friction between my kids is normal brother-sister stuff.
You're the biggest asshole I've ever met.
They have been competitive since birth.
I don't have a car.
Why don't you wait till you can buy it?
You know what? Shut up.
And Cara said a couple times that Shane is definitely the favorite child. And so she comes into Gina's office and she's like, Mom, I need money for back to school shopping. She also looks like a vision of Mick Bling realness in the TikTok realm of what they call Y2K. That is what she's giving. She's giving mood board. And she's like, can you give me money? Every other parent is taking their kid back to school shopping. Can you just put money in my account? And Gina's like, what do you possibly need? She's like, well, I need clothes. I need cute jeans. She's like, you have enough clothes to last you 4 lifetimes. She's like, yeah, but I get bigger every year. And Jeana goes, well, then stop eating. Which, I mentioned in the beginning, is just one of those things where on a show in 2005, you would not bat an eye at somebody saying that. But now it's did she... So Jeana obviously gives her the money and Cara goes shopping with her friend. When I think back to school shopping, I think like you're going to H&M. Let me not name drop brands. I don't have any sponsors, so let me not give them any attention. You're going to Redacted. The sales lady is like, oh, do you want to hear the damage? $2,400. I'm not one to like be taken aback at the money that rich people spend because like I watched this show. Nothing really phases me. $2,400 on teenager clothes for school. They bought so much stuff at this store that in the back of Cara's car, it looks like groceries. Literally like a grocery run in the back of the car, and it's clothes. $2,400 worth of clothes. And it is kind of crazy that she just like asked her mom like, hey, can you give me money to buy clothes for school? $2,400, which adjusted for inflation is like $6 million in today's money. Like, I want to know what she bought. I want to see the haul because she was saying it was jeans. Let me stop. Let's keep going. So next we meet Slade's parents, and they're actually cute. I don't know, they seem sweet. Like they just seem kind of normal. They've driven an RV down from Alaska. Like they're kind of country bumpkin vibes, very much so. Not kind of, very.
He wears socks with his sandals.
What?
He does.
Joe is never gonna let you guys get away with that. The queen of fashion will be in picking out your clothes in the morning.
She better be happy with cowboy boots and Levi's, because that's all I own.
Yeah. So Joe is kind of like just being playful. She's playing with Slade's parents' dog, even though the dog doesn't really like her. She's trying to like be friendly with it, just like have fun in her house. And she asked him a question, a very innocent question. She says, oh, you guys drove down from Alaska. Was there a lot of ice? And Slade goes, Joe, it's summer. Like basically calls her an idiot again.
Driving through Alaska.
Was there a lot of ice?
She didn't say that, did she?
Tell me she didn't say that.
Joe, it's summer.
Honestly, Slade calling her stupid in this moment did kind of, I felt a little involved because I probably would have asked the same question. Yeah, it's summer, but some places have ice in the summer. Like, fuck, I don't know. You could just say no. I guess we're both dumb. I must be. But he was like on her ass. Like he did not have to do all that. He could have just been like, oh, come on. It's summer. He's like, Joe, you did not just ask that. It's summer. Like there is a sassy man epidemic.
By the time people have hit my age in their mid-40s, everybody's got a boring health story.
So we see Kimberly, she's out on a walk with her husband. She tells us that she hasn't told Scott or the kids about her malignancy because she doesn't want to worry them, especially because it's not quite at a stage where it's metastasized, thank God. And she tells us why she hasn't told them. And she says, to me, something that makes sense. She says, if things can keep flowing normally as possible, that really helps me. And you can really tell that like she really cares about her family. She really is like a family first person. Even before herself, she puts her family first, and I really admire that in her. Like she is so strong for having gone through this so many times and just like still finding so much joy in life. And again, she's not so much feeling worried or overwhelmed for her sake and her health. She's more feeling about her family and how they would respond. She doesn't want them to worry, and the idea of her being without her family overwhelms her. Like she wants to see Scott get old. She wants to see the kids get old. She wants Scott to be a wrinkly old man that she can, hold hands with. And I think that's really lovely. Like I really admire her attitude and her approach to all of this. And again, like I said, I know that she gets better, obviously, just from knowing the fact that she's still with us to this day. I just really admire her. At the end of the day, she's not the most dramatic housewife there, but I really admire what she brings to the show and that she's a good mother, she's a good wife, and she has a really good attitude towards life.
Being busy with my family keeps me from thinking about the tests. Hello? As a treat for doing so well in school, Bianca's gonna have a slumber party.
We see a bit more of Kimberly's relationship with her kids, especially her daughter. She says Bianca did well in her exam, so she gets to have a slumber party, and Bianca wants to have it away from home, like at a hotel, because she doesn't want her brother bothering them. And so Kimberly's given her a cash limit for how much she can spend, and she's doing all the research and calling the hotels, and she does just genuinely seem like a good mom. Like she wants Bianca to learn these skills. I'm like, I would love to have a slumber party with my girls at a hotel. Like that sounds so fun at any age, honestly, whether you're a teenager, whether you're a grown up, that sounds so fun. Who wants to book a hotel and hang out? Kimberly just genuinely seems passionate about being a mom and helping her kids become good people and have responsibility and that kind of stuff. And she says, like, Travis, I think, is 7. Yeah, he is 7 because they just had his 7th birthday party. And she says, she's like, I want to be there when my son grows up. I want to help him become like a good person. I want, like, boys need their mom to help them be soft, which agree. A
boy needs their mom to keep them soft enough. Travis understands how to have fun. He doesn't quite get the rules yet. So I can't even imagine his future yet because he's got a lot more to learn. He's got a longer path ahead of him.
So we see Lauri back at the beach, but this time she's not taking sexy photos. She's with her family, which is really nice. She has Josh. Ashley says she's going to come later. She has Sophia, her youngest daughter, and then Steve, her male friend, her situationship, essentially, that she brings around. She's like, we're not boyfriend and girlfriend, but like we just sort of, I like to have him around. I was like, okay, work. To each their own. And it's really nice. There is kind of like a not tense moment, but there is a bit of a moment of note before they go down onto the beach and they're getting their parking pass. Lauri gives Josh money to go and buy the parking pass. I think that's what it is. I don't drive, so I don't know. But she gives him money and he's having trouble. He puts the money in, but the ticket doesn't print. And he's kind of freaking out because he's like, what? I don't know. There's no ticket. And Lauri kind of has to ask him, did you put the money in or did you take the money? And she says in her little talking head, she's like, sometimes I just don't know, like given his history. There clearly is a bit of lack of trust going on, obviously, considering he just got out of juvie. And I hope they can work through it.
Let me check your pockets.
I'm not here to rip you off for $3. I just jacked you for $3, Mom.
I did. That's my luck.
It's pretty. Let's go to another machine.
Oh, now I have to go get money. Oh, you got it?
I can get you a ticket.
How?
My hand's right here.
Get it. Did you get it?
Let me get it right here.
It doesn't come out of there.
Does it well?
Oh, she did. It's right there. She's right. All right. Awesome job.
I told you I put money in there.
Ashley and Lauri also both mentioned that they had gotten into a fight that we don't see, just about Ashley not taking responsibility and that kind of thing. But they seem to be over it here. I don't know. The main thing I could focus on in this scene was like, we need to go to California. Seeing the beach, seeing the cliffs, the waves, I was like, especially because it's the fucking dead of winter outside, we need to go to California. So back in Joe and Slade land, they go shopping for furniture with Slade's parents. And Slade is like, because I'm a Black American Express card holder, they can shut down the store for me. And he's so happy to be showing off his Black American Express card to the camera. He's literally like, because I'm a Black American Express card holder, like, okay. We get it. You have money. We get it. We get it.
I happen to be a Black American Express card holder. Due to that, they're able to close down the store for us tonight.
Just gaudy and tacky. That's all. But let me focus on anything but how much I don't like Slade. But Slade's parents express that they like Joe and they hope the relationship lasts. I think she's a nice girl, but they do have their doubts about the relationship just because the dynamic is just like weird. And from my understanding, and obviously my perspective is biased, I think that's more like on Slade. Okay, you have 2 kids and now you're like shacking up with this 24-year-old. Like, okay. But honey, we all have our doubts. We all have our doubts about the relationship. Trust me, you are not alone. So Lauri and her friend Lorelai, they get to go to the Playboy party. And Lauri says, she's like, it's a huge ego boost. Like, I'm divorced. I have 3 kids. Like, to know that I'm sexy enough to go to the Playboy party is a huge ego boost. It's really nice. And I'm sure it is. And she looks, again, I know I've said it like 10 times. She looks phenomenal. The drag, the Playboy party drag that her and Lorelai have on, I live. I'm sorry, frosted lip, smoky eye, big curls, satin robe, little fluffy kitten heels, gag. Sorry, collapse. We live. And obviously I know in this day and age, Playboy is a little bit gauche. I know we know that. But I hope she had the time of her life. She looks sickening. I hope she had fun. That's all I'm gonna say. It is kind of funny though how quickly opinions can shift, even personally, because as much as Lauri did need this, like, she has been having a pretty rough go of it and going out and doing something nice. She shouldn't not be allowed to do that. However, her son did just get out of juvie. I don't know exactly the timeline of like when he got out of juvenile hall versus when she went to this party, but it is kind of like, maybe that shouldn't be too high on your list of priorities, but to each their own.
Playboy, here we come.
Do I have enough boobage? Do I?
You have a surplus, girl. Does that look dumb?
No, it looks sexy as hell.
Okay.
Then we get another scene of Jeana's kids fighting, because what else do they do except for fight and shop? And this, all I wrote in my notes was Jeana's whole family look like mouth breathers. And I know I've already mentioned that, but this was the scene. I'll play the clip. This was the scene where I was like, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Like, damn.
I can't say it. Conscience. They're right there.
Consciences.
She couldn't say conscientious, or I can't even say now. Crap. How do you say that?
Conscientious.
I am
Conscientious. I said it.
Really.
So today's the day of Kimberly's daughter Bianca's slumber party at the hotel, which again, I would love to do this with my friends. And not just as like a 13-year-old, but like now. 2025, who wants to have a hotel sleepover? Because this looks lit. I'm sorry. But Kimberly, again, not to keep harping on the fact that I think she's a good mom, but she does make a comment where she says, like, I think it's important for children to learn how to behave and how to be alone in certain settings, because she says, she's like, I'll leave them in the room. They can hang out, order room service. I'm going to go to the bar and have a drink with my friend. A lot of parents could take a page out of her book and teach their kids how to act in certain situations. Seems like that's a lost art, but I'm not one to criticize people's parenting. Anyway, moving on. Bianca and her friends are eating their room service, and they do what probably most teenagers, 13-year-olds, would do in this situation. I'm not saying what they did was right or justified. I'm just saying most teenagers have probably or would probably do the same thing. They start like kind of prank calling the front desk, and it's all innocent. Like, they're just sort of saying like, oh, how many bathrooms are in the hotel? It's for a school project. Like, what time do the pools close? Like, putting on British accents and stuff. Again, it's innocent. It's not great. I'm sure they're being really annoying to the hotel staff, but like, they're kids at the end of the day.
Time do the pools. Okay, thank you very much. Just like 24 hours. She totally knows it.
And again, this also plays into like helping your kids learn how to act in situations when there's no adult, because they definitely would never do this again after this experience. So security calls and it's like, we need to speak to an adult. We're sending somebody down to the room. They're all shocked and gagged and gooped. And so Bianca picks up the phone, calls Kimberly, and is talking to her like the literal killer is coming to the door. She's like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. And like, again, it was all in good fun. And I'm sure they did learn a very valuable lesson here, and they would never do something like this again. Because if I was a teenager and this happened to me, I would never make another prank call again after this. And Kimberly comes to the room and they kind of explain the situation. And she's like, you know what? I know you guys were just having fun, but let's go apologize. Very reasonable. And again, like circling back to what Kimberly's going through with her health, she's saying to the audience, she's like, my biggest fear isn't dying. My biggest fear is that my kids are going to grow up and they're not going to have had the life lessons that I want them to learn. They're not going to have the right approach to life. They're not going to have a good attitude. That's what scares me. And again, I know I'm belaboring a point, but I really like her attitude.
Bianca's pretty wise, solid, understands how to get straight A's without driving herself crazy. She understands there's rules you have to follow in life to get what you want. She also understands how to have fun.
You love it.
I want to see Bianca become a mom. She's an amazing, amazing being that I've gotten to have in my life.
And speaking of mothers and daughters, Vicki has landed in Illinois, and we learn a bit more about her family dynamic, like with her mom, and that her and her mom used to be really, really close. They had a really good relationship, but the distance between obviously Illinois and California has put a bit of a barrier between them. And not just that, but the lifestyle difference. Vicki's mom can't really seem to get down with Vicki's lifestyle. She thinks she's too over the top, thinks she's too glamorous, thinks she's gotten too caught up in the hair bleaching, the teeth whitening, and all of that kind of stuff. And definitely has put a bit of, I wouldn't go so far as to say strain, but definitely has some level of an effect on their relationship. But they do drive around a bit and have fun, have a nice visit, where Vicki's mom tells her that her hair looks yellow, which is the worst thing you could say to a bottle blonde. Not that I would know.
But I think it gets to a point where almost it's too yellow and too... It's yellow? Yeah. Pay a lot of money for it not to be yellow. Well, I'm sorry. It's yellow. My hair is yellow. It looks yellow to me. Yellow, not blonde, yellow. Well, honey, it is. It's pretty yellow. Yellow.
I'd love to bleach my hair. Another thing about the show that does always kind of fascinate me is the sort of like sociology of fashion and makeup, and like what is chic and trendy and sexy and all of that per not just time period but in each region. What's considered hot in California is totally different than what's considered hot in New York, especially at this time. And all of that is kind of just like a complicated interlude to allow me to say that every time I watch this show, I have overwhelming thoughts about not just getting short French tip square fake nails, but also bleach blonde. Bleach, sun-dipped bleach blonde hair. Orange skin, bleach hair. And I know that is not the tea, but for one day, if I could have that for one day, I would. So we see Vicki at her high school reunion being Vicki. Like, that's the only way I can put it. She's like chasing people down. She's like saying, would you have dated me in high school? Which I feel like you get a couple drinks in anybody at a high school reunion, and I feel like anybody would ask that question. And she's like, I hope everybody thinks I look good. I work hard at looking good. She's chasing people around. She's just being Vicki. I've said it before and I'll say it again. She works very, very hard, and she plays arguably even harder.
Get up here! No, where you are, Marco!
You gotta remember.
If Don was out of the picture, there's definitely some guys I would be calling.
Did you like me? I thought you liked me in high school. We used to double date in high school, except I dated Bob and he dated my girlfriend Denise. But we always wanted to do a little switchy. We never did.
So back in Joe and Sladeville, they go out for dinner/drinks, and it automatically gets awkward because Slade asks her, can I ask you a question? Don't get mad, which is never the way to start a question. Do not ever start a question with, hey, can I ask you something? And you have to promise not to get mad at me. Because already I'm already mad. He basically asks her, like, how come when we hang out with people, you always want to play the role of, like, the silly ding-dong, is what he says. You want to play, like, ditzy and dumb. And she's like, it's just not that serious. Sometimes it's fun to just, like, be a bit silly. And Slade, say it with me, is being a weird bitch once again. He's just being such a drama queen, and he's saying to her, you know, you have a lot of growing up to do. And she's like, yeah, I know, I'm 24 years old. I know I have a lot of growing up to do. Like, when you met me and you proposed to me, you kind of accepted that. You know I like to party. You know I'm 24. You know I have no plans on having kids anytime soon. And he says, the 24 thing is getting old. Like, what? What? Also, she is 24. And he says, well, you know, I just thought you would change. Like, I just thought that, like, that behavior would start to change. And what I'm not getting is you got engaged to someone who's 24. Like, you thought a ring would magically change all of her behavior, that she would magically be subservient to you at all times. Like, what is wrong with you? Literally, what is wrong with him? And he's acting like her dad. Once again, he's acting like a father to her, which is... there's a lot to unpack there that I'm not going to get into. And he's obviously stressing her out, so she's just throwing back the cocktails. And then her friend, who manages the restaurant, sends over a fishbowl literally the size of her head. And Slade's like, you don't have to drink all that. Why do you think you have to drink all that? She's like, because it was given to me, and also because I want to. And he's just being so weird and controlling of her behavior.
This is my entree, dessert, after dessert drink.
Okay, you don't have to drink the whole thing.
Honey, yes I do.
No, baby, you don't.
Are you gonna play dad again?
It's okay to show a bit of maturity and not feel like you gotta drink the whole thing.
You know what? 1 second. Where's Lindsay?
He's hassling her about being immature, which is just rich. Coming from somebody who's engaged to somebody who's 24. Okay, yeah, tell her again how she needs to grow up a bit more. Also, how exactly is she supposed to grow and have life experience when you want her sitting in the house all day asking you for money? Like, how is she supposed to gain life experience to actually have that growth if she has no responsibilities other than things you want her to do? This man stresses me out. The more I look at him, I actually feel minutes being shaved off my life. This man is stealing her youth. This man is literally stealing her youth. Also, you want to talk about getting old. You know what's getting old? You're pushing 40 and you're arguing with a 24-year-old about how she's not mature enough to take care of your kids. The same 24-year-old that you proposed to, like, control it. I have to control it.
I'm 24.
The 24 thing is old. 24 is not an excuse.
It's almost like the producers knew that I was about to blow my top because they switch off of Joe and Slade and onto Kimberly and Scott. They go to the oncologist, and Kimberly, her results came back clear. Everything looks good. She's healthy, which is amazing. And she gets to celebrate with her friends, go back to normal. And it's such good news. I love good news.
Everything came back good. All the results were excellent.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Oh, it's a huge relief. And so now I get to go back to living.
But obviously, no good feeling lasts forever because we're back to Joe and her drama queen fiance Slade having this argument while she drinks her gigantic fishbowl cocktail. It reminds me of she's drinking the shit that I ordered at the VIP theater when I saw Challengers for the second time and they gave me 2 straws. The blood orange mimosa at the VIP. Yeah, that shit was everything. Had me Googling the menu, trying to find out the ingredients, trying to make it myself at home. Anyway, so they're having this awkward meal, and Joe's like kind of asking him, she's like, why are you so tense? Like, have some of my cocktail. And he's like, no, I don't want to. So we get a peek at maybe what is bothering Slade so much, because he's like, I just don't understand why a woman who's supposed to be engaged is out at the club, you know, drinking and talking to strange men and blah, 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 blah. Where is this coming from? And she says, she's like, I always wear my ring. I lead with the fact that I'm engaged. It's not like that. Like, you're completely misunderstanding the situation. And then she unleashes the gagulator on him. And she says, well, FYI, the man that I fell in love with was confident and secure. So I don't know where all this insecurity shit is coming from. Boom. Yeah, get him. Get him again for me. Whack him again. And yeah, she gagged him with that, because then he comes back and he tries to blame it on the alcohol. And he's like, well, I just don't understand why every time alcohol gets involved, it's a problem. It's such a problem with you. It causes problems in our relationship. You know what the example he cites is? Your drinking is such a problem that you don't even remember my proposal. Which, sure, maybe he does have a point there. But then she says, it was New Year's. Which, and I know I'm biased, but as Joe's lawyer on this case, you proposed to a 24-year-old on New Year's. That's a skill issue to me. I'm sorry. That's one of the drunkest days of the year. You can't get mad at her for being drunk when you proposed on New Year's. Who proposes on New Year's? Like, I'm sorry. To each their own, but I'm giving her the point here. Sorry. And I would have done it anyways. Even if you were right, I still would have given the point to Joe, because I don't like you. And Slade Smiley, if you're watching this, please don't send me a cease and desist letter. Thank you. And he's pissing her off so much that she has to get up. She's like, I gotta go blow off some steam. She goes into the kitchen to talk to her friend, and she basically says, Slade is being a weird bitch right now. And her friend is like, well, if you need to blow off some steam later, we're going out to the club after. You're more than welcome to join us. Like, don't let him stress you out. And she's like, you know what? I might take you up on that.
So might be some sugar.
Fine. Then you should do that.
We can do it after. Or date.
No, we can be done.
So she goes back to the table and she basically asks him, she's like, why are you being so pissy? Like, what is your problem? And he goes, I just don't understand why I found somebody who's such a perfect fit in my life and I can't have her because she still wants to go out and party and drink. Nah. First of all, oh, boo-hoo. Shut up. Also, like, I, me, my life. You're engaged. It should be our life. Also, she's clearly not a perfect fit in your life because you guys have had issues every single episode about the fact that she has different priorities than you. Clearly, she's not a perfect fit in your life. You think she's a perfect fit in your life because she's hot and you just want to live in servant. Like, that's it. She's not a perfect fit in your life. Like, don't sit here and lie to me. So they split off. It's kind of unclear where their relationship stands. He goes home. Before he leaves, he's telling the camera, he's like, I'm not going to foot the bill for her to go out and drink and talk to strange guys and blah, 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 and drives off. And she's at the bar and she's upset. Like, you can tell she's upset because she's saying if he wants to go out and meet somebody who's 40 and wants to take care of the kids, then so be it. As much as it pains me to say this, I do almost want to give him a bit of a grace because, yeah, okay, sure, it is his money. But then I have to retract my grace because whose fault is that? You don't want her to go out and have a job. You want to have complete financial control over this woman, and then you're going to get mad at what she spends the money on. And never in the history of humanity has there been somebody who needed to be at the club more than this woman. Genuinely. She should have been at the club. She should not have been with whack-ass Slade Smiley. And I really just feel bad for her because she's at the bar alone, and now she's crying, and she's like, I just don't think I can do this anymore. Like, this is just ridiculous. And it is ridiculous. Like, I'm on your side.
Can't do this anymore.
So then it flashes to the next day and she's driving her car, which, by the way, has a custom plate on it that says J Smiley, just like Slade's has a plate that says S Smiley. Some people might think that's cute or endearing. It might be cute and endearing if the situation wasn't what it is and they were, actually married. Her name was actually Joe Smiley, but I digress. And she tells us that they're done and they've called off the engagement. Thank God. Sorry, like, thank God. We prayed for this moment. Everyone was so happy. Thank you, God. And just like that, we're at the season finale. It's not the last episode because we still have the reunion, and I'll explain that. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But this is the season finale. So the episode starts with Jeana Keough. I don't know why I always refer to her by her full name. The episode starts with Jeana. She's at home. She's talking about Shane getting ready to leave for college. He's gone shopping. He pulls a shirt out of his bag that says Buck Fuddy on it, like one of those like funny slogan t-shirts, which is very, very of the time, because personally, not to age myself, but I remember like in the pre-social media era of the internet, like when I was a kid, one of my favorite sites to go on, I forget the name of it, but it was like funny t-shirts, and I would just like scroll through it. Like there was no TikTok, Instagram, any of that. I would just go and look at funny t-shirt websites and just like scroll through it. That's very of the time. And that was probably one that I saw. And Jeana says that she feels she's been spoiling Shane a lot, getting him ready to go to university. So she's like, why don't I bring Cara with me with the girls to this like diamond party? Vicki describes it as a Tupperware party for millionaires. So it's Jeana, Lauri, Vicki, and then a bunch of Gina's friends who are not like housewives. Bunch of other ladies. Lauri's there at this Tupperware party for millionaires, even though her whole plot this season has been about how her bills have been affected and she doesn't have the income coming in anymore. But she does say she has been doing well at work, and she has been getting a bit of money from her divorce settlement, so she is a little bit better financially, but she's still not in the same league as these other women, and kind of is like, I don't know why I came, but work.
Will you buy this for me?
Okay, get your sales up, girl. I'll buy them. They'll be your bonus for the end of the year.
We need a man, you guys.
Ask your boss for a raise.
Yeah.
You don't need no stinking men. We just do it ourselves, girl. We don't need no stinking
Yeah, but I always feel that jewelry is attached to men. Why is that?
Why
They
give it to you.
Attach
Attach it to me and call it good. Buy it.
Now, I love tacky things. Anybody who knows me knows I love things that are very tacky. I'm not a big jewelry person, but some of this stuff is a little much. Let's just say that. And not even that it's just a bit much. It's also, Vicki's trying on a necklace. It's $40,000. But, honey, if I had the money. Lauri's trying on a necklace that's like $20,000, which this is 2005, mind you. So now that's probably like literally 1.2 million. And in Canadian dollars, honey, that's $5 million. That's
beautiful.
I don't think we should think about it.
I think it makes your bust look really big.
I'll have 3 then. Even though I'm making a little more money, I'm still the sole support, and it's really hard to put me first. This is the way I think. I think, what do my kids need?
She looks amazing. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times, but that's beside the point. And Lauri's feeling somewhat conflicted because she's like, I really want this, and I don't treat myself ever, which you did just go to the Playboy party and get your hair and makeup professionally done, so. And I do imagine it's hard. You're around all these women who are not even thinking twice about dropping like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, and for you to kind of be like waffling over spending $1,000, which is a lot of money, but in this scenario there is a lot of competition to kind of keep up with the Joneses. So I understand where she's coming from, even though, like, yes, I do think she should put her kids first. I do think she deserves a treat. I think everyone deserves a treat. I very much am the friend who's like, girl, buy it, girl, buy it, go buy it, don't think twice, buy it. So I love to sell things to people. So if anybody wants to sponsor me, my email's in the description. Thank you. I love to encourage people to buy things. Thank you. That aside, we do kind of see where Lauri's priorities lie, which is like men, jewelry, etc., etc. I just hope when she bought that necklace, I hope her kids have food on the table. That's all I'll say. So Joe and Kimberly go to play tennis, and they see the women who are already playing, and they're like, they're a little too good. This is not the tea for me right now. And Joe obviously has a lot on her mind because her and Slade just broke up. I'm trying to be like, but yay. So she tells Kimberly, Kimberly's the only person she's told, and Kimberly has like the most Xandowed reaction. She's like, no, really? But also the reaction of like, I know that face all too well. Like when someone gives you tea and you're like, that's crazy.
There's kind of been a lot going on with me. Me and Slade kind of.
No. Are you okay with this?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard.
Kind of?
Well, it's really hard. I'm just trying to play strong girl, you know?
Oh, I am so sorry.
And so while Joe is telling Kimberly about her thoughts on the breakup and all of that, it keeps cutting to shots of Slade at the gym, just looking like absolutely terrifying. Literally the Terrifier. And obviously their thoughts on the breakup are not the same. And Joe is very rationally explaining to Kimberly, like, Hillary Rodham Clinton what happened. She's saying like, you know, he wanted me to be the mother of his children when we're not even married yet and wanted me to do all this stuff. And like, I'm still young. I still have so much I want to do. I want to work. I want to do this. And Slade's understanding is like, you know, she's saying that like, she's not going to change until we get married. But that's like, if I said, you know, we're not married, I'm going to go sleep with a bunch of women. Which I wouldn't really say is the same because she's not sleeping with anybody else. She literally just is like, yeah, I don't really want to be a stay-at-home mom for these kids that aren't mine when I'm not even married to you. I don't want to be under your complete and utter control by having you pay for everything. I want to work. I want to have my own life. And he's like, that's like if she said, I'm going to sleep with a bunch of other guys. Like, no, it's not. Literally, no, it's not. But let's move on.
Have you thought about going like counseling together?
Couples therapy?
Yeah, like couples therapy.
Isn't that bad to have to go to therapy before you get married, though?
No, sometimes people need the tools. It depends. Like, how are you feeling right now? Are you relieved? Or are you upset? Or are you...
Of course I'm upset. It's just hard.
So then we see Vicki lecturing her son, and like, Vicki is someone who obviously is very uptight and is very type A and wants things done a certain way, but Michael also is very bratty and irresponsible, and she is on his ass for a very valid reason. She's like, you need to call the dean and like prepare to go back to school, not just sit around and play online poker and use my American Express card to buy concert tickets for your friends. And his logic, according to Vicki, is basically like, well, just earn more money, like just go back to work and earn more money, which is like crazy. And he obviously, as the kid is like painting it, is like, oh my god, my mom is insane, like she's gonna have a heart attack because she's always so stressed about something. It's like, yeah, she's stressed about you because you stress her out, not too much on her.
I'm going to the racetracks tomorrow.
You're not going to the racetrack tomorrow until you... Michael, you have to get your classes registered.
Okay, I can call her in the morning and then I'm going to the racetracks after.
You're going nowhere unless the stuff is done, just FYI. And the American Express card is going to be left back here.
Michael has taken advantage of my American Express card.
And what about the concert last night? You took all these kids to the concert, and guess who got charged?
So we see Lauri hanging out with her situationship, aka her friend, as the editors called it, Steve, who he says he's like, you know, my feelings for Lauri are really deep-hearted. And she's like, yeah, I wouldn't really call him my boyfriend. Like, he's just like my male friend that I bring around my kids. But Lauri's been volunteering for a charity that helps kids with cancer. So she's like, this is such a great opportunity for Steve's band to play and we can raise money for the charity. Well, guess what, Mimi? Nobody shows up. It's kind of sad. Like, okay, this is a really good cause, but nobody shows up because the event started too early and she kind of just waits around. She's like, they missed a really great band. Great might be an overstatement. As long as the charity got its money, then I'm happy. So then we see my good friend Slade, Smiley, going for beer and cigars with his friend to commiserate about his breakup with Joe. And here goes Slade. He's like, you know, everything was so perfect. Everything we had was perfect, except for this one small aspect. And like the small aspect in question being like, yeah, it wasn't perfect. She didn't fit into your life. You wanted her to fit into your life, and she wasn't ready for that. And his friend literally goes like, that's a pretty big aspect. And his friend is kind of like, yeah, man, like that really sucks, but like maybe you need the time apart to just have some space and see if this is the right decision. You'll be fine. Like, you're a grown man. You'll be okay. And Slade is like, maybe. I don't know. Bitch.
I don't want anybody else. And to have everything in our life be so perfect, and it really is, except for that one small aspect.
That's a big aspect.
And back at the house, Slade has like essentially just thrown all of her shit in boxes, and she's trying to like gather it all up to leave, to go and find somewhere to stay. And he comes in, he's like, I thought you were gonna wait to leave until like I came home so I could talk to you. And she's like, what more is there to talk about? He's like, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you're making the right decision? She's like, you're the one who walked out on dinner, not me. Like, we're broken up. He says, well, I walked out on dinner because of your behavior. And then she says, well, if you don't like my behavior, then why don't you go find someone whose behavior you do like? Gag. And then he does something that is like, I would say, one of the least normal responses to that. He goes and starts taking the plate off her car. And I get like, okay, he bought the car. The vanity plate does say J Smiley, even though they're not married, but, and I just don't think that's like a very normal thing to do. Mind you, we know he's not normal, but like, that's weird as fuck. Am I crazy? That's really weird. And she reasonably is like, what are you doing? He says, well, we have to talk about this at some point. And she's like, I'm not doing this with you right now, and gets in the car and drives off because, yeah, what you're doing is, say it with me, weird bitch behavior. Ladies and gentlemen and them, they, them, if you ever wanted a reason to not get involved with a rich man and have him provide everything for you, this season of Real Housewives should tell you everything you need to know, because you're going to take my car. You kick me out of the house. I have nowhere to live. I have no car. You're going to take the fucking plates off my car? So she gets in the car and she drives off naturally, because what are you doing? And then he gets in his car after and drives after her in such a hurry. He drives through the flower bed. And when I first saw this, Mama, I was scared. That scared me. I'm like, no, he's too much. Like, I already thought he was weird. I already thought he was American Psycho. No, that was weird. And so we cut to commercial after he drives through the flower beds, and he's sitting at home walking around like he has a poopy diaper, if I'm being honest. And he's leaving her voicemail after voicemail after voicemail being like, please call me back. I'm sorry. I just want to talk to you. I just want to talk to you. Have you not talked enough? And sitting around looking all sad, holding the license plate like, And you know what the fuck of it all is? She walks through the front door. She starts bawling her eyes out, and she's just like, I'm really sorry. Like, why does this have to be so hard? I feel like I tried to be everything you wanted, and I'm just not, like, I'm not doing a good job. They have a heart-to-heart, which, yay. I'm happy for Joe. If she likes it, I love it. They seem to have reconciled. They go upstairs together, and he is being sweet. He's like, you know, the kid's like, you are doing a good job and all this, which is like the first time I've seen him do anything I could give him credit for the entire season. So sure. What the hell? Sure.
I tried to be a good mom, and I tried to be a good housewife, and I wasn't good. I wasn't very good.
First of all, you're a great mommy. Otherwise, the kids wouldn't call you their OC mommy. They love you. And I love you.
So back at Lauri's house, Ashley's moved out. She said they were having issues. And as Ashley said before, she's like, yeah, I don't care if my mom dates. I just don't want her to date jerks. So Lauri's ranting to Josh about how she doesn't want Ashley getting involved in her personal life. And Josh clocks and goes, well, it's not just your personal life. We're a family. Like, your decisions affect all of us. And Lauri says, she's like, you know, I love Steve, just not like the marrying kind of love, but like I really love having him in my life. And she says that when she first met him, he had just got out of rehab. Like, he's had a history with drug use, which I'm like, okay, hold the phone. Obviously, with all due respect to people who are in recovery, I just maybe don't think that's the best person to have around your kid who's also dealing with something similar and was just in juvie. That's just me. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy for thinking that, but I just, maybe her kids kind of have tea that, like, he's not the best person to have around. But I think, and this is something that we'll get to in season 2, Mama, is Lauri, I think, prioritizes having a man around and doesn't care who it is, just wants a man around, which, like, you're a little too grown for that. Let's just say that.
My kids are not going to tell me who I can and cannot date. She forgot one thing.
What's that?
Her dog.
Carrying on, we have Kimberly is hosting a joint birthday party for her and Joe, and Jeana and Vicki are already at the party, and they're talking about like the difference between sending their kids to college. Gina's like, oh, I cheered, like it's so nice, like knowing he's like going off and doing his own thing, and Vicki's like, oh, I cried the whole way home. I couldn't even see when I was driving. I was crying so hard. Damn.
No, Michael sees my number and he just
I wanted no more answer my phone to my parents every day when I was in college.
Really? Well, he knows what happens if you go. If you do that to me for 2 days, on the third day when you go to use your cell phone, sucker doesn't work.
And they're also talking a bit more about like just having girl talking about their husbands. And Jeana makes a comment about how she's like, how Matt bought her a present and like, I think it was a vacuum or something, and she wasn't super happy with it. So he just never bought her a gift again. Which I just think speaks volumes about their relationship, but trust me, we will get to that in season 2. Just put a pin in that for next time we sit down together, okay? Just keep that in mind. Lauri arrives a little late. They ask if she's on blonde time, which I kind of love. And she pulls Vicki aside and she's like, hey, do you remember I told you about Steve and how like he'd had a drug problem and I cut him out of my life and I told him that if he went through a rehab facility, he could come back. Well, he did that. And then I just went on a trip with him and with Josh to Mexico, and Josh witnessed him buying drugs. And Lauri says at first she didn't want to believe Josh, and Josh was like, I will take a polygraph test. I swear to God, that's what I saw. And then Steve confirmed the story, and Lauri obviously kicked him out because Lauri says what I already said, which is like, having someone like that around my son who was just in juvenile hall, I just can't do that. I gotta put me and my kids first. So she kicked him to the curb, and Vicki's like, you don't need him. Sayonara, you do not want to keep getting sucked into this dysfunctional life. Goodbye, Steve. Which also, like, okay, if that's not your man, why are you on a trip to Mexico with him and your son? But to each their own. And Lauri even says, she's like, I don't know what it is, but I somehow keep ending up with these men who need saving, men who need fixing. And like, I don't want to do that anymore. And just the way that Vicki's talking to Lauri, I know having a drunk heart to heart with Vicki would heal me, would actually fix me. I need it more than anything. I need it, I think, more than I need air or water or basic human necessities. It would be like water, air, drunk heart to heart with Vicki.
I mean, I can't afford to have that.
Well, you're going to keep going back to a dysfunctional life. You have to set your parameters high. And I want the best for you, Lauri. I swear to God. And, you know, I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart, you need to push the ick away.
So they rejoin the group, and Kimberly's like, they're like, oh, where's Joe? Is Joe coming? And she's like, yeah, Joe actually asked if she could bring a date because... And she pulls out the tea she's been waiting to spill, and she's like, her and Slade actually broke up. And funnily enough, right after Lauri's like, I don't want to date any more losers, she's like, is Slade coming? Girl, no. And Lauri does not seem shocked at all. She seems actually elated. And she goes over to Vicki and Dawn, and she's like, Joe and Slade broke up? I'm shocked. And Vicki, without even missing a beat, goes, I'm not. Called it. Queen. Honestly, that would be my reaction. Like, girl, I am not shocked.
Wow, I'm shocked. I still can't believe that. I mean, they looked like a cute couple. How old is Slade again?
So Joe and that, I'm so shocked. I'm not. You're not? I mean, that was so quick though. I mean, called it.
And one thing I love about Real Housewives that I've been ruminating on, and we will, I'm sure, touch on many more times, is the dramatic irony of the show and how like delicious it is. Because even though Kimberly's telling the group, yeah, Joe and Slade broke up, that's crazy, and they're all talking about it, we as the audience know, no, they actually just got back together. In the time between your conversation with her and this party, mama, they had a heart to heart in the living room on the stairs, and they're back together. And then lo and behold, who walk in hand? Joe and Slade, bringing to the stage.
Hey. Making our grand re-entry at Kim's cocktail party was about as awkward as I've ever felt, almost in my life.
And so they seem to have talked things through. They're not fully back together, but they're taking things slowly. They're not engaged anymore. They're open to couples therapy, which Kimberly had suggested, but Joe was like, isn't that kind of crazy to go to couples therapy before we're even married? Which, like, yeah, it's not crazy, but I get why you'd kind of be like, we haven't even gotten married yet and we're already in therapy. Like, slow down. But they're open to it. They're healing. Joe says she's in a transitional state. She's not ready to be engaged to him again, but they're warming up.
Hopefully we can get back together and make things work. You don't just shut those feelings off.
Take some action.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And then we get the little kind of wrap up they do at the end of every Housewives season where they tell you, like, this is where they are now. Here's a little update. So 2 months later, Lauri is still selling insurance. She's up 30% in the last year, so she's doing well for herself. Ashley's also doing well. She's living with a friend. She's working as a waitress. And Joshua, unfortunately, violated his probation, so he's living with his grandparents in Idaho. Maybe a change of environment, change of pace will be good for him. Let's hope. And all they say about Kimberly and her family is, the Bryants are happy and healthy. Yay! Let's celebrate that. And then as for the keoughs, Jeana's still one of the highest grossing real estate agents. Colton's hand has healed. Kara's hoping to get into UCLA. And she's a redhead now. Thanks for the update. And Shane is at college with a something batting average. I don't know sports like that. We've been through this. And a 2.8 GPA. So, and they show him in like a toga. So clearly he's not really taking school seriously, but we knew that was coming. And on to the Gunvalsons. Dawn has a job closer to home. Michael has taken Vicki's advice and is only partying once a week, and he has a 2.9 GPA, which I believe has gone up. Let's celebrate that. I keep quoting the clip of Oprah and Lindsay Lohan where she goes, hello, let's celebrate that. So Brianna has left for nursing school, and Vicki did not have a nervous breakdown. And say it with me, hello, let's celebrate that. And last but certainly not least, 2 weeks after Kimberly and Joe's birthday party, Joe and Slade called it quits. Hear my heart break. Like, what more can I say? And now for the ultimate gag. 6 weeks later, who does Slade start dating? I'll give you a second to think of your answer, conjure it in your head, maybe leave it in the comments. Lauri. Slade starts dating Lauri. The woman who said she was done dating losers starts dating Slade Smiley. But not for long, because 2 weeks later, Joe and Slade are back together. And Joe is reunited with her Mercedes license plates and all. But it's unofficial. They're not engaged. What a mess. Literally what a mess. And the episode ends with all the women smiling and Jeana in a voiceover saying, "There's a huge mystique when you live behind the gates, but once they open up, we're no different than anybody else." Which, yes, but I wouldn't say no different. I mean, I'm not really out there buying $40,000 necklaces yet. One day, speak that into existence, but I wouldn't say no different. And there we have it. Before we get into the reunion, that was season 1. I will say I would rate this season, like, adjusted for inflation, 2 out of 5 oranges would be my rating of this season. And I'm going to be honest, I said this right at the beginning. It's not the most interesting season of Housewives. But that's, again, knowing what I know now, which is probably why it took me so long to make this damn video, because it was like, there's so much I want to say about the entire Housewives cinematic universe that I don't want to get ahead of myself. It was cute. It was interesting to an extent. It was a very, very good starting point, and clearly it was enough to grab people's attention and kickstart a literal empire. So I have to give it its 10s where 10s are due. I'm very excited to have finished my recap of this season so I can get on to the next seasons, because that's been my main motivation to finish this damn video, is so that I can get on to the more interesting and exciting seasons of Real Housewives. Not that this one wasn't interesting or exciting, but if you know, you know. Okay? There's some literal legends to come who are joining this cast that I'm very, very excited to discuss and talk about and unpack with all of you. So yeah, I'm very, very excited to be walking the flower path with you all. But with all that being said, let's get into this reunion. So we finally made it to the reunion, and much like many other aspects of this season, it is a far cry from the reunions of today for a number of reasons. Number 1, there's no Andy Cohen. Crazy to think about. Number 2, the reunions of today are very much chaos, drama, confusion, fighting, mayhem. So we don't really get much of that here. They just kind of more reflect on their experience being on the show, which is still really valuable and kind of interesting. You can just call me Garbage Candy Cohen. Stupid.
My life has definitely drastically changed, you know. I go out to a club with my girlfriends and girls are coming up to me going, "Oh my God, I love the show."
First up, we get Joe, who says her life has drastically changed since being on the show. She says she gets like 10 emails a day of people telling her to leave Slade. And if I wasn't a literal child who was too wrapped up in their emo phase when this was airing, I would have been one of those emails too, okay? Actually, I'm one of those emails now. And she does what a lot of housewives will come to do when their husband acts actually crazy on the show, is they say, you know, he's not really like that. The show, I get why you got that impression, but he's not really like that, aka she want to blame it on the edit. Okay? It's like, you're the one who's dating him, so I have no choice but to take your word for that, but also they can't edit it to look a certain way if they don't have footage that makes it look a certain way. So that's just my take. She also makes a comment where she's like, everybody, like, I'm not the gold digger that you might think I am, which is like, I never took it as her being a gold digger, because I feel like if she was a gold digger, she wouldn't be pushing to have a job all the time. She would just be perfectly happy sitting at home and spending Slade's money, but she didn't really want that. So I don't call her a gold digger. I'll defend her on that front. To this day, gold digging is a hot button topic on The Real Housewives. It is something that's going to come up a lot, and naturally is a trope of many housewives that will be on the show, including one who we're going to meet in, I don't know, 10 minutes, aka like 3 seasons. Did you know you have 30 minutes? I honestly would say that I think gold digging as a concept and gold digger accusations have come up, to my knowledge, on every single franchise at least once. It is something that will persist throughout the entire show, as I'm sure you can already imagine, but Joe, a gold digger she is not, okay? And she says that after her and Slade broke up, she was getting all these emails of men being like, I could treat you so much better. And she says she thinks Slade was getting the same. And she said, she's like, every time I went out after we broke up, Slade, who was never someone who liked to go out, suddenly every club, every bar I go to, who's there? Slade. Bitch, what the fuck? Okay. Who's there? Slade. Smiley is there. That's who.
I was actually in LA at a club randomly with my girlfriends and saw, who do you know, Lauri and Slade dancing on the dance floor. I was like, oh no she didn't.
Well, I know that there was a little conflict there between Joe and Lauri.
I actually went up to Slade and I kind of went, and he turned around.
And the response was, nice date.
And Slade tries to claim, oh, it wasn't a date, it wasn't like that. Meanwhile, in Joe's words, he was freaking her on the dance floor. And this is where we kind of get the first inkling of conflict, because she says, she's like, honestly, I felt a little bit betrayed, because you think you know someone, you invite them to your birthday party, they bring you a present, you think you know them, you think they're your friend, and then they go and move in on your man. That's really weird. But also, Slade is also kind of weird as for that. And this is kind of where Slade gets his little nickname of being a housewife hunter, because why date another woman on the show? Unless you literally just want to be messy, which I would not put that past him. And I completely forgot to mention this in the last episode, but at Kimberly and Joe's birthday party, Kimberly makes a comment about how Lauri could be Joe's mom, and Lauri literally goes, "Who's Joe?" At her birthday party, mind you, and she remembered who Slade was. And speaking of Miss Kimberly Bryant, Joe says that when her and Slade were trying to reconcile and talk things through, like work it out, get back together, whatever you want to call it, Kimberly was messaging Joe saying that Lauri and Slade were still seeing each other behind Joe's back and they were sleeping together. But Joe comes to find out that was actually a lie. Gossip and mess started by Kimberly to get back at Joe because Joe didn't stand up for her at a radio interview that she did. And the show famously is still kind of taking its shape, but this is a moment where I see the roots starting to dig into the ground of chaos, drama, mess, mayhem, and confusion. So Joe finishes off her little post-show interview by saying that her and Slade are back to being boyfriend-girlfriend. They're not engaged, no ring on her finger or anything, but they're working things out, taking things slow, trying to find balance. If you can't see behind my eyes, I don't want to see Slade anymore. I want her to be with someone who she deserves to be with and who deserves to be with her. Not that. I just think she deserves so much better than Slade Smiley. Like, I don't want her to be back with him. But also he's messy, so I'll take it. Fine. What the hell? Sure. So then we see Jeana, and I feel really bad for her because she talks about how, like, hard it was to watch herself on camera and how she thought she looked fat. And it just makes me sad, like, because Jeana's like, oh, I hadn't been on camera in a while, and, like, the camera really does add 10 pounds, and she thought she looked fat, and she thought she looked bad, and, like, I just don't like seeing people talk about themselves like that. Like, no, you look good. You have 3 kids. But I get it. It is really difficult to look at yourself on camera. So I can't even imagine on a much larger scale. So I completely empathize with her because it is really difficult to look at yourself on camera. Like, but I just don't want her to talk about herself like that. Like, come on, girl. Jeana, we love you. Jeana Hart, do it. And she says that she gets a lot of comments from people saying that her kids are spoiled, that she needs to leave her husband, and like, I'm not going to disagree with either of those things. I'm sorry, Jeana. Your kids are spoiled. You need to leave your husband. What more can I say? And she does comment on, like, the parasocial relationship of it all. She says, like, people really think they know you because you're in their living room. And she tells a story about how she was at the pond with Cara and Joe and Slade, and these, like, 2 big guys in a pickup truck pulled over and were like, hey, Slade, you need to give your girl some slack. Love the show, though. Which, like, I love the idea of these 2 big burly dudes, like, sitting down and watching The Real Housewives.
You know, they might just see one of you and think, gosh, she kind of looks like that girl from The Real Housewives. But when there's 2 or 3 of us together, people are stopping, they're making comments, and it's not just a, hi, how are you? You know, people get into it.
And Jeana mentioned something that I don't actually think that she mentioned at all during the season, or at least I didn't catch it if she did in like the 4 times I watched this season to make this video, that her husband actually throughout the season was struggling with his problems with alcohol and was in and out of treatment, which made it hard being away from his family for long periods of time, which kind of does explain a lot. And she says, she's like, you know, my kids don't drink, they're very against it for that reason. But then they play a clip of Shane being absolutely wasted in Mexico, so... And speaking of Shane, Jeana says, and I quote, when you go on the blogs, there's all these gay people who think he's gay. And Jeana says, no, Shane is not gay. He just doesn't go with girls because he knows he's going to be traveling and playing baseball for 5 years. That's why he doesn't have a girlfriend. And I believe her. But I am not surprised at the fact that people were making shrines of him online. That weirdly doesn't surprise me at all.
We live in a very bedroom community, so by doing this show, it exposed our lives, and now our neighbors know us without even knowing us.
And not to be biased, but then we see my queen, Vicki. Vicki kind of just talks about how, you know, my relationship with my kids is not entirely what the camera showed. They made me look like a control freak. I assure you I'm not. I don't really believe that.
Try to stay off the boards or the blogs. Brianna is on them all the time, and she'll call and she'll say, Mom, people think that you're controlling and that you and I don't have a good relationship. And she says, I want to write back to them and say what a great relationship we have. There was somebody on the blogs that said I look like Miss Piggy.
In her defense, Miss Piggy is fabulous, okay? I know that whoever said it probably didn't mean it in a nice way, but come on, guys. Like, don't be mean. Vicki also reveals something that she did not mention on the show, which is that part of her passion for insurance wasn't just because of what happened to her family, but that she had some pretty severe health issues too. And it's crazy the show never touched on this because like the condition she's describing actually sounds crazy. She says that she lost all the spinal fluid around her brain, and the brain was coming through the skull and into the ear, which is like, that's crazy. I didn't even know that could happen, if I'm being completely honest. That is insane. She's very strong because holy shit. And she does say that she wishes the show touched a little more on the passion she has for life because of this, and that because she didn't know how much time she had, in the same way that what Kimberly said, which is like having these kinds of health issues really changes your perspective on things, which like I've had my own health issues and I completely agree. Like it really does put things into perspective, and like I do wish the show had touched a little more on that, but I'm glad that we're seeing it now because it's just like, that's insane, and I never would have expected that she went through something like that.
I don't think the show touched on the passion I have for life. It becomes real when you don't know what your future is. Am I going to be here for another year or 10 years or 100 years? I mean, we don't know.
So moving on to Lauri. Lauri talks about how she gets people sending her photos in the mail asking for autographs, like with their pre-addressed envelope inside to send it back, which is like, as much as on one level that sounds kind of insane, that would be me. I'm sorry. I would be so starstruck if I met a housewife. Like I would love to go to BravoCon. I could meet like Brad Pitt and I would be like, okay, it's not a major holiday. But if I met like Vicki Gunvalson, bitch, you would have to pick me up off the floor. I don't care. Like, I would be so starstruck. And then she says, she's like, by far the craziest fan mail I received was a pair of Manolo Blahniks from the father of a cast member on Laguna Beach with a note inside that was like, I want you to join me for dinner. We can share some crazy reality stories. She said she did not go out with him, but like, damn. Also, I want to know whose dad it was. So Lauri gives her version of events of what happened between her and Slade. And she says that when Slade started talking to her, he had told her that him and Joe were completely done. Joe was seeing other people, he was seeing other people, and that it was fine. But then they ventured up to LA to go to the club and they run into Joe. Lauri says it was really uncomfortable, really awkward, and that they stopped seeing each other, and that now she's seeing someone new that she's really excited about. And she's like, if there's a season 2, I don't think Bravo could keep up with us. So let's see in season 2. She does make a pretty valid point where she's like, this is a show about our lives. I don't really understand how people could criticize the way I live my life because like it's my life. Which like, yeah, I'm still gonna criticize it though, but she raises a fair point. It is her life and not mine.
The show is about our lives, and I don't understand how anybody can criticize the way I'm living my life. This is my life. You know, I'm obviously not perfect. You know, I mean, who is? But, you know, I'm just doing my best. Hey, guys.
She makes another valid point where she's like, you know, they probably shoot hundreds of hours of footage to cut it down to 7. So they're going to pick the parts that are the most dramatic. And that for me is kind of like why with a lot of these shows, I don't try to pass too much judgment on like who these women are as people. Because again, I know they're picking and choosing certain footage to show us, to make it interesting. So like I'm not gonna sit here and like say, oh, she's a bad person, no, she's a bad mom, yada yada yada, but I will make my little comments.
Josh is currently living with me. He's back home and doing really well. He's back in school and working furiously on trying to catch up with deficient credits. He's working at Abercrombie & Fitch.
So after Lauri's interview, we move on to the ladies sitting in Vicki's backyard and just like watching scenes from the show and providing commentary. And I will point out, Kimberly is not present and she also didn't get an interview. So I'm assuming she's not back for season 2. Actually, I don't know why I say I'm assuming, like I haven't watched it. She's not back in season 2, but she's not at the reunion. So we don't really get much closure on her story. I believe I read in Not All Diamonds and Rose that like she kind of didn't really want to be a part of the show anymore as it started to go on, was like, and obviously with the radio interview thing, it kind of makes sense, but we will get to that in season 2, trust me. And thus begins a long tradition of one season wonders, women who come on the show for one season and for whatever reason are not back for a second. And a lot of the time it is just like they're not a good fit, the show's not for them, but she's the OG one season wonder. And obviously knowing what I know, having read these books, watched season 2, and I know she's not back. When Vicki says, oh yeah, it's too bad Kimberly couldn't be here because she's on vacation, and frankly I just don't believe that. Like surely they could have picked a different time if it was just a matter of scheduling, but moving on.
Well, you guys, too bad Kimberly couldn't come. She's on vacation, but we love her. Kimberly, we love you. Sorry you couldn't be here.
So when they're sitting in Vicki's backyard, I'm honestly not going to recap most of it because it's kind of them doing what I'm doing right now, which is watching the show and just like talking about it. Really, the only kind of like noteworthy thing that happens here is they kind of are like, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Joe and Lauri. How is it? And Joe literally goes, just smile and nod. Next question. Again, this is a reunion that is nothing like the reunions we will come to see. This one is kind of just like recapping what happened, which is funny for me to say it like that when that's exactly what I'm doing, but I don't care. I'm gonna keep doing it anyway. Yeah, it's very different. There's no Andy, and Andy really is a driving force of like asking the questions and really getting those awkward moments, whereas like when the ladies are just sitting there, they're gonna keep up appearances and just nod and smile and okay, work. Andy really is a very necessary cog in the Real Housewives machine, I fear. It is a nice little bow to tie up the season with, but not a super groundbreaking reunion. It does make me excited for season 2. But I would be excited anyways because I love Real Housewives. So yeah, those were my thoughts and my recap of Real Housewives of Orange County Season 1. First Real Housewives season ever. This was a decent season and a foundational text in the Real Housewives cinematic universe. So I'm very excited to be on this journey together and to get into the real meat of this franchise and this overall dynasty of women. I'm very, very, very excited. Thank you so much if you made it to the end of this video. I really appreciate it. I know it was probably a bit rougher on the edges, but I'm trying something new. I'm getting out of my comfort zone, and I'm just really excited to be here talking about Real Housewives with you all. So leave a comment down below. What are your thoughts on the Real Housewives? If you have any questions, comments, concerns, favorite housewives, favorite franchises, drop it in the comments. Please leave a like and consider subscribing and hit the bell so that you can be here for season 2. And until then, I will see you all. Goodbye.